Previously on CSIS 2470.
I mean, this really is all there is to the Ajax stuff. We're basically done with this idea, but I told you we would look at this JSON business here in a minute. So we'll talk about that in just a second here. And let's start by using this one here. I guess I could go back and find it. Here we go. The date. So let's put a date in there where it's the month and then the day and then slash the word date. So this is going to give us some information about the date, November 10th, somewhere in history, right? So let's come over here and refresh. And November 10th is the day in 1989 that longtime leader of the People's Republic of Bulgaria, that name that I can't pronounce, is removed from office and replaced by this person, okay? And I think it actually gives a different random fact sometimes. Yeah, you can see there's a different one every time I refresh, depending on the date. Okay, but this is not very dynamic, right? We want to have all this stuff happen based on user input. We don't want to just put any old date there. We want the user to be able to pick a date and choose what the date will be. So maybe they can look up their birth date or something like that, right? But before we get to that, this is basically all there is to it. Let's get this in JSON. And now some APIs don't have this option. They don't have a plain text option. They just have only JSON, right? In our case, we can force it to be JSON, and it's actually documented down here how to do that. Just let me search for the phrase JSON right here. And if we just add, let me find the next one right here, right there. If we add the question mark JSON there at the end of any old URL, and I know this because I've read more than I'm showing you on the screen here, but it's elsewhere on the page, right? But if I put question mark JSON, then the value that I'll get here, question mark JSON, will actually be a JavaScript object. And it has a text field, it has a number field, it has a found, and so forth. So let's do 12/10 date question mark JSON. Now we get this. The text will be the random fact. The year will be whatever year the random fact happens to be. So we can actually use that information. But let's just take a look at how this comes to us if we do that. So I'm going to put here JSON, and I'm going to say response text. We're going to put it in the console for right now. When I refresh, that looks like an object, but it's actually just a string. It's not an actual object. It's a string that is formatted to look exactly like a JSON object, but we have to parse through it and convert it to a JSON object, right? So let me show you the difference. Let me just cut this. So there's a JSON static class. Remember static classes? We have the math class and others, and it has a parse function, right? And if I pass in this text here that looks like JSON into the parse function, it will know, hey, turn that into an actual JSON object. Now when I refresh, you can see that's actually an object now, right? And I can expand it and everything. And if I want to get a hold of just the text, right, I can take this parse thing now, which is an actual object, and do .text. And now if I refresh, it gives me that text again, right? Maybe I only wanted the year, right? So I can just do .year, and it gives me that, 1775. Now, remember, I'm not just making up these words here. If I refresh and I expand this object, you can see that there is the text property, the number property, the type property, the year property, and so forth. And so I was just doing .year or .text. So now we have everything we need to be able to display this in our HTML if we want. Instead of consoling it, we can actually do, document.getElementByID or whatever. And again, in this particular case, I am a little bit contriving a JSON example, whereas other APIs, you have no choice. You have to use JSON because that's the only format they give it to you in. Just so happens this numbers API is kind of a little bit more friendly, where it will give it to you in plain text, but maybe you want some extra information, so it will give you a JSON object if you want it. And we want it so we can see how to parse JSON. Okay, well this right here, all I want to do is run that when the user enters some information, right? So let's make a web form here, just a simple one here, the main, like so. Now, remember when you make a select, it's a drop-down box, right? So you have to have in between the select option for, it'll be one, I can't type. And then it'll be 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 31, right? There's 31 days in some months. Well, that's a lot to just manually type. So we'll use JavaScript to do that part. Same thing with the month. We're going to go up to 12, right? Let's just go look at this right now and see how it looks. And I guess I closed it out. Apparently I did. No, I didn't. It's right there. Okay, so there's the playground. There's nothing in these drop downs at the moment. Well, let's add it. We'll do that in our JavaScript here. And what we'll do is just right here on load, we'll just say create drop downs, and we'll just make a function that does that when the page loads. So that's easy enough. I'm actually going to remove these comments, but I'm not going to delete them. I'm going to put them over here, and I'll put them back at the end when I give you the code. All right, so here's a function. Create drop downs. Okay, what do we want to do with this? Well, we want to grab these so we can add to their HTML, their inner HTML. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's just say let day equal something, and we'll let month equal something. We'll talk about the specific something in a minute. And then just a couple of for loops, right? So we'll do for I equals 1, I is less than or equal to 31, I plus plus. And in this loop, we're going to say day plus equals, and we'll use backticks, why not? Well, what are we going to do? We're going to do option, and then we want the number 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So whatever the iterator is, right? So that just goes right there, the iterator. And then it also has to have a value, right? So value equals, again, the iterator, and that is I, right? So this loop will happen 31 times, and it'll give us the option with value equaling to 1 and the display value for the user equaling to 1, and then 2, then 3 up to 31. And we'll do the exact same thing for month right here, and we'll just change this variable to J so we don't have to worry about any kind of conflicts with the I above, because that can happen sometimes. And we'll say month, and this will only go to 12. Right, so now month has got 12 of these, day has 31 of those, and then we can just do document.get, or we'll do query selector, and it's the day.inner HTML equals day, and we'll do the exact same thing for month, and that's it, right? So let's run it and see what happens. We refresh, and sure enough, there's 1 through 31, and there's 1 through 12. Now, I want to also add a little note there that says choose day, choose month. If we do option and we say we'll say choose day, close the option. We don't need to put a value there because we're not going to do anything with the value. But the problem you have with that, though, is choose day is something I could choose, and we don't want that, right? So there's a cool little trick you can do where you can disable it, disabled, but you can also have it selected, and then you can also have it hidden, right? I know that's crazy, but if you do that, it shows up there, but once you drop down, it doesn't show in the list and you can't select it. So that's a cool little trick there. And then I'm just going to duplicate that line, but change that to say month, so I don't need that anymore, and choose day, choose month, right? So now we have those two as the starting point. We refresh, and there, choose day, choose month. Groovy. So now all we have to do is call this when they click the button, right? This is all the Ajax stuff right here. We just want to call that when they click the button, okay? So I want to put an event listener on this input here, right? So let's do that. We'll just do, we'll get let button equal document dot query selector input. There's only one input, so it'll grab that one specifically. Button dot add event listener. And remember, event listener takes in 2 parameters, right? Parameter number 1, the event, click, and parameter number 2, the callback function. So we'll call it get cool info. And now we can just say function get cool info and put all this inside of there. And notice here, we got a nested function, right? That's a little weird, but it's totally valid, right? And we'll come back to fixing this code a little bit here. The only thing left now is we don't want to just display 1110. We want to display whatever they entered. But let's just run this to make sure that this is working for the moment. So refresh, and that's no longer displaying, which is good. It should be waiting for us to click on this, right? So it doesn't matter what we click at the moment, but when I click it, it should display the information over there, and it does. But it's still displaying November 10th, right? Because that's what's here. Well, that's easy enough. We need to grab the month and the day from the user. So what I'm going to do with these two here is make these variables outside of the functions so that they're global, right? So I'm going to copy that for just a minute, and we're going to say let m equal and let d equal, and we're just going to let it be the object, right? The object, like so. So we get the actual object of the day thing right here and assign it to d. And so down here, all we have to do is say d.innerHTML, and then down here we can say m.innerHTML, right? The reason I did that is because I want access to D and M right here, because we want the values of D and M, right? Well, right here we can simply make another variable called day and month, right? There's a variable called day and month in this function, but they live and die inside of this function. So let's make another set right here. Let month equal m dot value, and let day equal m dot value. So now if I put month here and day here, we now have a dynamic value that will be sent in the URL, right? And since we didn't use backticks, so let's use backticks, and we will do $, and this is the month, and $, and this is the day. So now whatever day we click should send off to the API call. So let's refresh, and I'm going to choose 2 and 11, so the second of the 11th month. Maybe I should reverse the month and the day there. But when I click that, we're getting November 11th is the day in 1960. So that is not, that's not the correct thing. Let's do a hard refresh to make sure it updated the JavaScript, and try that again. So we're going to say the 10th day of the 4th month. So there we go. April 4th is the day of whatever, right? So I just hadn't refreshed. I didn't do a hard refresh. It was still using the old JavaScript. Okay, so this is working here. We have the whole object being printed out. Well, I want to put it inside of our HTML, right? So right here, I'm just going to do a paragraph right there, and we'll just add some text to it, right? So we can come up here, let paragraph equal document dot query selector. That'll be the paragraph. And then down here, rather than console.log, we're going to say p.inner text is equal to this. Now, this is the whole object. I don't want the whole object. I just want the actual message, the text, right? So let's refresh it. Hard refresh just to be safe. We're going to choose the first day of December, and December 12th. I think I got my dates backwards here. I got something funny going on here, because that should not be December 12th. It should be December 1st. So let me see if I goofed up somewhere here. Oh yeah, right here, line 23. Look at that. I have day equaling m.value. So let's do day equals d.value, right? Okay, let's try that again. So the 1st and then 12. So that should be December 1st now. There we go. December 1st is the day in 1963, that whatever. And I believe if I click it again, I get a different fact. And I keep clicking and I'll keep getting different facts, and who knows how many are in the database. So there you go. We have this fully dynamic app here where the user can interact with it. And notice again, when I click this, the page doesn't reload. This doesn't change, doesn't reload. We're just getting the data directly from the API website. Now let's clean this code up a little bit here and do it the way, well, I say clean it up, but it's going to look messier. But this is the way you'll see it in the real world. So, you ready? First of all, this right here, this function display business, look how small this is. It's one line. We don't need curly braces, right? So I'm going to just indent it, get rid of the curly braces. Also, this is a very small function. It's very common that this would be an arrow function right here. So I'm going to cut this out, get rid of this, and turn this into an arrow function and do that syntax that we all love to hate, right? So nothing should have changed. I'm just going to refresh it and make sure that's the case. Hard refresh, which by the way is hold the shift key down while you refresh. And we're going to go the 11th day of April. And there you go. So it's still working. But now look at this. This is a smaller function now. And we can turn this into an arrow function, right? So let's copy this, get rid of that function, turn that into an arrow function. And again, do that syntax that we love to hate. And now it's a little crowded there, but that is more realistic of what you will see in the real world. I'm also going to move this let button here, move it to the top, right? So now we have all of our variables at the top here, all of our objects. So that's it for Ajax. It's pretty simple, even though we have all this extra code for creating drop-down boxes and we have these objects up here. This is just the Ajax part right here. That's it, right? So not a whole lot going on there. So thanks for coming to class today. As usual, take a look on the screen there. If you have answers to and understand everything on the screen, then you are ready for the quiz and you've learned everything you needed to learn from this video. Thanks again, folks. We'll see you next time.